What's up, hello, my name is Emma, and today I'm going to be talking about some YA books that focus on friendship. Now, I love me a good YA romance. I mean, like, the foundations of this channel were built on Clace. I love the Sweeney love interest. I love to get all the shipping feels and whatnot, but over the last year, I have noticed that I really started to value books that didn't focus on romance and were more focused on things like family dynamics and especially friendship. I also want to say, because I know I'm going to get so many comments that say, why isn't the Lunar Chronicles squad in here? Why aren't the drags from Six of Crows in here? Why isn't the Darkest Minds crew in here? Listen, I love all of those friendships and more so much. I've been raving about these books for years. There are so many books with amazing friendships that aren't included on this list, specifically because I wanted all of these books to mostly focus on friendship and either have no romance whatsoever, or if there is a romance, it to be very understated. So there are going to be 1,010,000 amazing strong YA friendships that aren't on this list. And obviously when I get to the end of the video and I ask you guys what are some of your YA friendships, please let's gush about them in the comments, but I just really wanted this video to focus on friendship and nothing more. The first book I gotta include on this list, because this video would be incomplete without it, is of course the Harry Potter series by J.K. Rowling. I think I am correct in saying that when we think of literary friendships, we all think of the Golden Trio. I have been rereading Harry Potter for the last few months. I do a reread once a year because I love this series so much and Harry Potter has such an impact on my heart. And I have really noticed like the friend dynamics in Harry Potter in a way I've never really appreciated it before. I just started reading Deathly Hallows, and especially in the moments where we realize how much Ron and Hermione are sacrificing to go on with Harry on this specific journey because they're just so loyal to each other, it really hit me hard how much they care about each other. And there are absolutely moments, there are huge chunks of multiple Harry Potter books where this friendship is not all that connected. They fight, they argue, they don't speak with each other. There are a lot of moments where they're at odds against each other, but the important thing about that is that they still come together in the end. And although they may not see eye to eye, or they may disagree on like really strong stances on things, they are still always going to come back to each other and support each other and be there for each other, and that's the most important thing to me. The three of them just have a powerful friendship, and I think the relationship between these three wizards and witches have been so influential on so many of our lives and friendships since we grew up with these books. The next book I'm going to talk about is actually what inspired me to make this video a year ago, and we're just finally making it now, but that is A List of Cages by Robin Rowe. If you have not heard me talk about A List of Cages, it follows a story of these two boys named Julian and Adam who used to be foster brothers, and about 5 years has passed since Julian lived with Adam's family. They lost contact, they haven't spoken until one day when Adam is a senior in high school, Julian becomes a freshman at the very same high school, and they just bump into each other in the hall, and it's really like the start of rekindling their friendship and brothership that they've had. It is very important to me that I disclose that there is a big trigger warning for child abuse in this novel, but I just can't tell you how wonderful and beautiful the friendship between these two boys is. Julian really looks up to Adam and wants to make him proud, and Adam is just so fiercely protective of Julian. And even though Adam is super popular and has a large friend group and he's really well known, and Julian is just like this new freshman that doesn't really fit in anywhere, Adam always makes a conscious effort to include Julian in absolutely everything. And even just like the friendship Julian starts to form with Adam's friends, who are just like side characters, is just so freaking beautiful. This book made me cry so many times, and it's not just because of the emotional heaviness that comes along with some of the themes, but because it is just so heartwarming to see two individuals care so much about each other. I'm getting chills talking, oh my god. The relationship between these two boys is so impactful. I truly feel like a changed person after experiencing their stories, and A List of Cages is just a really powerful novel that talks about friendship and brothership and family and kindness, and it is so wonderful, and I'd highly recommend it. The next book on this list is I Hate Everyone But You by Gabby Dunn and Allison Raskin, which is actually written by two friends, which is probably why I really like this book that is so focused on friendship. I Hate Everyone But You is told entirely in text and email conversations, so it's really about the dialogue between two friends, which was a super unique experience. I haven't read a book like this since like TTYL in 6th grade, so that was super fun. fun. But I really loved the friendship between Ava and Jen because it felt so real. I was sent a copy of this book a few months ago by the publisher, and I was so surprised with how much I loved their friendship. I just think Ava and Jen, like on the surface, are like the stereotypical opposite attracts best friends, where you have the super introverted one and the crazy party girl one and the very conservative one and the one who's a little bit more liberal and open about herself. And I think the familiar text sort of format worked really well for this novel because we really just got down to the core of their friendship, which at heart is very deep and interested in each other, and I loved that. But I also just love that they aren't like a perfect friendship. Like, they have little tiffs all the time the same way teen friends do. They get into arguments and disagreements. They have a very big blowout nearing the end of the story, which made me very sad because I was loving this friendship, and then they sort of really hurt each other's feelings. But this stuff happens in real life with friends all the time. It's not always puppies and rainbows and being supportive of each other. Things happen when we interact with other humans, and that's just like a part of our human experience. So I think having those elements of flawed friendship as well was a really crucial point in this story, and I think because it is written by two best friends, they were really able to capture that perfectly. I Hate Everyone But You is just a really fun, lighthearted novel that deals with two friends who go off to different colleges for the very first time and are having their own experiences while still remaining a very close friendship, and I really loved this book way more than I thought I would. So thanks so much to Macmillan for sending it to me to read a few months ago, and I would definitely recommend it if you're looking for a book that is hardcore friendship themed. The next book I want to talk about is Your Welcome Universe by Whitney Garner. I have been so excited to include this book on my list because I never expected it to be a book about friendship. It's all about this girl named Julia who is a deaf street artist who gets thrown out of her school for the deaf and has to attend a mainstream school. And so the synopsis says, as Julia is a street artist in a new neighborhood, there is a competing street artist who is tagging and changing all of her work, and there is sort of a graffiti war going on, and I cannot be alone in thinking that that is going to be a male street artist that she befriends, and they start having feelings for each other, and then he's the street artist that she's been competing with. I'm not wrong in making that assumption, okay? But it is actually a beautiful, I'm gonna use the word beautiful and powerful in this video, a beautiful story about friendship between two girls. So as Julia is the new girl in a school where a lot of people can't really communicate with her, she meets a girl who we only know as her deaf name, which is YP, and I have to say I was so pleased with the relationship that formed between these two girls. When Julia first meets YP, the only thing that she can sign is the very typical I love you, but over the course of the story, YP takes it on herself to learn American Sign Language to communicate with this new friend, and they also do a lot of texting where they'll be sitting right in front of each other, but they will be texting in order for them to communicate in the most efficient way possible to keep up this friendship. That sort of dedication is just so meaningful to me. A lot of people would not go through that much effort to communicate and make a new friend, and I just find that so wonderful. Like I said, I was reading this book expecting a YA romance to appear out of nowhere, but before I knew it, we had so many scenes with YP and Julia, and I just fell in love with their friendship, and I think it is such a heartwarming story that does not have anything to do with romance, and it is very, very focused on what it means to be a friend to another person, and I find that so wonderful. I have a full spoiler-free review of Your Welcome Universe on my channel if you want to check it out. It's linked below, but I loved this book so much, and I would highly, highly recommend it if you're looking for some great girl friendships. Now, with a lot of these contemporary books, I've read them very recently, but this is actually a fantasy friendship that I read immediately when it came out in 2015, and it still has stuck with me, and that is Truth Witch by Susan Dennard. Because I read this book so long ago, I don't remember a lot of distinct details of the story, but I do remember loving the friendship between Safi and Iseult so much. I read this at a time where every YA book I had ever read was really about romance, and it was so nice to see another really healthy, strong girl friendship that was just built on empowerment on each other as opposed to romantic interest. The two just complement each other so well, and they truly are two parts to an entire person, and I feel their bond is just so unbelievably strong in a way that a lot of other YA friendships aren't. Now, I have only read the first book in the Truth Witch series. I haven't read Wind Witch, so I don't know if the little bits of romance that are strewn throughout this novel become more relevant and maybe the friendship isn't the big story anymore. But in the first book in this series, I was so in love with this friendship from the very beginning. I was just so happy to see two girls that truly loved for each other, cared for each other, were always there for each other, were going on these adventures together. It was such a cool experience to find these two awesome, really strong girls within one friendship. And the final book on this list is another book I was sent by the publisher to review, so you will be getting a review closer to its release date in November, but that is Kat and Meg Conquer the World by Anna Primazza. Kat and Meg Conquer the World is all about these two girls that don't really know each other, but they are paired up for a year-long science project, and the way they start to connect with each other is through their shared love of an online gaming streamer. Kat has anxiety and Meg has ADHD, and again, it's sort of like a play on the stereotypical opposite attract sort of friends, because Kat is very reserved and shy, and Meg is like always out of her comfort zone, talking to everyone, very, very social. And again, I just feel like their dynamic really complements each other, and they lift each other up in the ways that they needed to be improved on. I feel like Kat really helps Meg be more responsible and productive and efficient in the ways that Meg has always wanted to be but might not have been able to access before, and Meg really helps Kat push herself out of her comfort zone and helps her to realize that she's capable of achieving so much more than she thought she was. Again, they get into arguments here and there, and I think that is such a crucial part of writing friendships, is to show the truth and the harshness and all the parts that we don't like to think about when it comes to friendship, because it makes it so much more grounded. It is just such an authentic friendship in the way that they start becoming friends when things are a little awkward and they don't know how to really talk to each other or connect, to a few months later where they're like, "What's up? I'm here. What's for dinner?" It is just such a cute, fluffy girl friendship novel, and I think that if that is something that you're really interested in reading, Kat and Meg will be the perfect book for you. So that really concludes my video on YA books about friendship. I've noticed as I've begun to talk more about books that aren't just focused on romantic dynamics and they're more focused on like personal growth or family dynamics or friendship, a lot of you guys have shown interest in those sorts of novels, so I hope in this video you guys got some recommendations for great books that are focused on friendship. Let me know in the comments below, what are some of your favorite YA books about friendship, whether it be something that does have a crossover between romantic relationships and friendships, or else if it is a book that is just like strictly all the good friendship feels. I would love to chat about it with you guys, because friendship in YA is something I'm really passionate about, and I hope we get more books that are focused on these sort of topics in the future. But that is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you soon for a new video. Bye!